this exhibition, All Things Round, Galaxies, Eyeballs, and Karma. Welcome. My name is Nick Brevis. I'm the media contact here at AVAM, and I just want to make a few brief announcements before I welcome our curators to the microphone. So you've probably already grabbed your press kit from this table over here. Feel free to also take a yo-yo. Just don't play with them in the galleries, please. And then food as well. We have some round breakfast treats. One thing just wanted to let you know about on the press kit. We have images available on our website. So if you take a look at any of the pages that have images on it, the selected works pages, there is a link at the bottom of that page. You can just email me for the password. There you go. But if you forget that, or if you need to email me, it's nick@avam.org. I'll send you instructions with a link for high-res images, ready for print, and all that stuff. Thank you. Also, we just have one tiny correction to one of the artist names in the packet. The artist list, Basila de la Cruz Carrillo, should just read Basila de la Cruz. So just FYI, you can remove the Carrillo. Done. And a few quick thank yous. Michelle Goldberg, our facility rentals coordinator, took care of our round breakfast treats this morning. Thank you for that. Also, big thanks to Felice Cleveland and Becca Bridges of our education team, who have been running our magic medallion station back there. And also Felice did the illustrations on the calendar on the back of the press kit, which are amazing, so thank you to them. Of course, a big thank you to our artists who are here, and Rebecca's going to introduce them, but if you can just please stand up. Our artists that are here, we want to give you guys a round of applause. On behalf of the museum and everyone here, we just want to thank you. We're honored to have you here. We're really, really excited to see it in the exhibition and hear you talk about it. Of course, a big thank you to our exhibitions team who worked tirelessly to build this phenomenal exhibition you're about to see. And it's really fantastic, and they did such hard work. So we got to give them a round of applause, even though most of them are still in there working really hard. Okay, without further ado, I just want to welcome our co-curators, Rebecca Hoffberger and Mary Ellen Velo, to the stage. Here you go.
It's a very big day, because that was also Nick's very virginal. You're witnessing it. Press conference. Okay. Well, Dolly and I would like to really welcome you and thank you. How many of you from the press have been here every year since we opened in 1995? Huh? I think not. You would. Almost?
Missed last year.
You missed last year? What were you thinking?
I don't know.
Huh? That was our biggest show to date, too, on the least amount of money. How many of you got to see What Makes Us Smile that just went down? It's interesting. I think people really, in these times, just needed to be reconnected with authentic joy. So on the heels of our most popular exhibition to date, we have the newest show, All Things Round, Galaxies, Eyeballs, and Karma. Okay, long name, but for good reason. I would like to tell you that a little bit about my co-curator, my dear friend. There are a lot of people who collect this kind of art, but very few who respect the artist more than anyone I have ever met, and that is Dolly. Dolly and her husband also do the very uber successful 8th Street Festival in DC. They grew it from the first year of 5,000, and this year you had? 50,000, and that's in how many years?
5.
In 5 years, okay, that's very good, that's very easy. That's a jubilee.
So 10 years.
10 years, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years you'll, I hope. And beyond that, Dolly has a design firm. She's been a designer for many years, so her eye has been such a pleasure to work with. And it's just wonderful to have a co-curator that really gets excited when you come up with something pretty outrageous, and tames you down when she says, "Oh, I don't think that'll work," and trumpets when she thinks she got an insight. So I thank you so much. Now, today, the exhibition speaks really loudly, but let me tell you a little bit about the thought process. I love science because I feel that so much of creative invention is not just things that can be hung on the wall or sit on the pedestal, but the real reflection of a lot of fresh thought is in the world of science. So I've long been fascinated with the material world, and at the smallest amount of the material world, at the atomic level, what is the nature of that? The nature of that is spinning round. It's electrons that dance around in, actually, with very little matter, a central nucleus. Most of it is just empty space. And at the macro level, you know, it's the planets that are revolving around central suns. Everything is a spin dance. So we're sitting here together, and what are we on? We're on an Earth that's going over 1,000 miles an hour. And yet we don't feel it, because that's the ambient thing that we were born into. But at the same time, with very little effort, we can spin on new meadow grass and fall dizzy. Just that little bit of wobble difference, and we're dizzy. So this show, again, is very strategic. What is in it? It is our most voluptuous show in our history. It's a Zoptic show, and for very good reason, because the nature of zero, of a circle, is to be either totally empty or totally full. So today we're very privileged to have a good number of our artists here, and they will be introduced in front of their work and get a chance to answer your questions and explain from their own heart and mind what was in their heads about roundness and voluptuousness. I wanted to also thank both Dolly and I thank George Gary, who's in charge of our exhibitions, also in charge of the maintenance of these 3 buildings. This is a very small SWAT team. And the logo for the show came from our own Teresa Segretti, who designed what can, I think, how many of you know the term Toho Vohu? Our rabbi does, right there. Okay, that's what. There's this term in the Hebrew Bible that says tohu vohu, that all was tohu vohu, and because it's never ever mentioned again, it gets translated as chaos. But nobody really knows what it means. I think it means not chaos in terms of randomness, but in terms of pregnant, that the world was pregnant with every possibility that there ever could be. And that's, I don't know, am I going to pass a rabbi? I don't know. But what I love about Teresa's logo is that it emulates one of the key images in the show. So we'll get there and be able to see it together. Now, we look for certain synchronicities that happen in our exhibitions, and they always do, because there's almost a dialogue that goes through. And one of the things is that we have Huichol Indians who keep the Mayan calendar from the Sierra Madre, and we have their art. Like the ancient Greeks, like the Norse myths, like the Aborigines, they believe, as do the Hopis as well, that there have been 4 prior worlds, that we're in the 5th. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 5, but it's never more than that. And they always look just like the Greeks who called it the Golden Age, that the first world was this idyllic kind of heaven on earth time. And the age that we're in now is the one that really sucks. This is the Kali Yuga from the Hindus, you know. This is really the difficult one to be a living sentient being on this planet. And so what I was thinking, boy, isn't that wild that there's so much buy-in? So when we're in this gallery that looks at the cyclical notion of time versus linear time, again keeping in that round theme, you're going to see many cultures who who come to the same conclusion and just pour those conclusions through the filter of their own ambient culture. But if you look with that eye up to the circle, through your circular eyes, you know, you'll see this highway of images that deals with this roundness throughout the exhibition. And then finally, I've always been fascinated with the idea that whether you're going to be a toad or a giraffe or a human being, we all begin life as this circle, this cell, with information inside, just waiting for a fast swimmer to explode that information packet, you know, and then we become, if you ever look at the, at what a rabbit fetus looks like, it looks a whole lot like, almost identical to a human fetus in the very early stage. If this museum is about anything, it's about that the life force itself, in all of its manifestation, is much more alike than it is different. So with that, are there any questions before we actually start you on the tour? No? Okay, let's get to it. Have you had the brown foods in your mouth? Okay. Thank you. Okay, everybody, let's go. Laredo, thank you so much. And Luke, is everybody kind of in? About homegrown talent. Sean was a waiter and a delightful one in our top floor restaurant when it was Joy America, and had the great good fortune of having a grandmother who was the closest person in his life, not just a loving grandmother, but a best friend. And I'll let you speak about what her loss did to create an artist within you. Sean.
Wow. Well, thanks everybody for coming, and thanks for listening to my little story here. I am Shawn Theron. I am out there in life. I am painting pretty much, we're creating one thing, it's called SAW. And to give a quick backstory to everything, in 2003, the one who was pretty much my mom in life passed away of cancer. In the 2 weeks before she passed, she and I sat down in front of a video camera and we said our final goodbyes to each other. And in that time period, she asked me to do various things as I lived my own life. And she, in her great wisdom, named it SAW, S-O-G-H, gave me 4 letters and named it SAW. When I was about 10 years old, I had given her the name of Red. When I was born, I grew up in a very large family and very old family, so I had many generations of people I called grandparents. And I had to distinguish between which grandparent was which grandparent back then. Actually, I had 13 separate grandparents. Over time, she and I became much more than best friends. Our relationship was profound, phenomenal. She was a pillar of life, and everything else you can possibly imagine with that. When her death came, it was the biggest thing in my life I knew I would have to deal with. But when her death came, and she asked me to do these various things, for the months beforehand and a very long time after, I started to record my moments, my life, the end times with her as she came to her end, and then I moved forward. Without knowing what I was doing, because I wasn't an artist, I wasn't creating anything, I wasn't doing anything to that effect. I was exploring my world. When that started, and after her passing, I had to go through the grieving process that everyone goes through. But she had left me with this nugget of this thing called SAW, these 4 letters, S-O-G-H. And with that, and various other things, she asked me to turn on the light. Many times it had nothing to do with the light switch. And I started to discover, and I started to explore. After several months, I realized with incessantly taking photographs and exploring life itself and making a record of this veil around me, and I realized I was taking 1 year of my life in photographs the entire year, which is the big piece right back here. It's 28 feet long, and it spans from December of 2002 through December 2003. It actually ends on my 31st birthday. In it does capture our last moments together. Right after Red passed, she was right here, and we had the last family portrait right down here after she passed, before they took her body away. And I just kept going. A lot of really big, intense stuff was going on in my life. Ultimately, what happened in this 5 years turned out to be the most, not 5 years, in this 1 year turned out to be the most profound moments of my life. Within this, 5 other people passed, and for many of them, I have their last moments in this. One that is pointed out in particular, his name is Gus. When I was working upstairs in the restaurant, Gus and I had a great relationship, and Gus also wasn't made of money, but he found someone he fell absolutely in love with and got married. They came here right after the wedding ceremony at the courthouse, and I took their wedding photos. And it was great. We had a great moment, a lot of fun. They're in here. 2 months and 13 days later, Gus's new wife murdered him, stabbed him in the back, and that itself was just mind-blowing to us all, to say the least. And in here is also the day he died and his funeral. I recorded that as well as my biological mother. One of her best friends passed away, and I have her in her coffin as well. Various other folks. And the 365 ends. I realized what I was creating. Did I call it art? Not really. I called it 1 year of my life, and I wanted to see what it looked like on the wall, because I didn't have a wall big enough to see this. This week is actually the first time I'm ever seeing it on a wall and experience what it does. At the very end is my 31st birthday, the last column, or column and a half. In that, I buried 4 people that day. I finished my 1 year song. I also started the next step in this evolution of this thing I was creating, this big grandiose thing I was creating, and I made my very first solid painting, which actually is not this one. It's because that entire series I don't show anybody. They're for me. They're super private and super special. But outside of that, years have passed, years have gone by. I went through many other encounters and what have you, and ultimately I was starting to get encouragement from 2 incredibly important people. One, Rebecca, here, and the other, Ted, who was the owner of the store, who pretty much said, you need wall space in various forms. And I went, thank you, but no. And it took about 6 or 9 months before Ted, who pushed me, said, you need wall space, and offered me simply that. At that point in time, I said, okay, and I took the next step in my evolution of this thing I was creating called Song, and I made several paintings one night on scrap pieces of wood that were laying around the house, and I now live in Red's house. I have the house, and so this is my very first painting I did that night on January 28, 2006, the 3rd year after the night Red and I sat down at the dining room table and started saying our goodbyes. Didn't realize it until after I had painted. And when the magic then started to happen, everything that Red had asked me started and directed me to, started to, in synchronicity or other powers that be, started to come to be, just simply put. The first day I put a few paintings on the wall, 10 It was February 2nd, 2006. And within the first half hour, 2 paintings sold. I was like, oh, wasn't this neat? You know, I was 5 years old, this is great, yay. I called people, I was like, hey, you wouldn't believe it, I sold a painting. Within the first month, 61 paintings had sold. I was blown away. I was absolutely blown away. And, you know, I didn't know what to expect. You know, for an artist to have, sell 10 paintings a year, they're having a great year. For them to sell 100 paintings a year, fresh out of the gate, not knowing squat, not knowing what you're doing, except you're going in this direction, they're having a phenomenal year. And I understand this. The blessings for me in my very first year, starting from this building in the museum and everything, the very first year I sold 1,357 paintings.
Say that again?
1,357 paintings.
Bravo!
It was amazing.
It's unheard of. I couldn't believe it the first time I heard it.
Well, it gets better than that.
Hard enough.
It gets better than that because it hasn't stopped. And it just kept exploding all around this planet.
Wow.
Now it's a little bit more than 5 years later since I started my solved paintings that are up here. They're big, they're powerful, they emanate an energy to our core that we all see. They are many, many different things. They are life force and life energy that a single cell to a planet all have. To a human, to a flower, to lollipops, you know, I don't know about lollipops, but I tend to eat them. That kind of thing. And it's, people resonate. My paintings are simple. I keep them attainable for folks because they are for people. They're not necessarily for you, whatever. Because I now have something huge to create around this planet. That's what Red ultimately asked me to do, is influence as many people as I possibly can. In the last 5 years, I'm about ready to celebrate my 13,500th painting sold and or donated, because I love giving them away to foundations to help raise money for whatever cause. Last year alone, I donated about 600 paintings. Just why not? Let's do it. If I'm going to be blessed, and we're going to be blessed enough to have something that special happen in life, then we're going to do something amazing with it. If we can change the world, let's do it. And there are thousands of people that are now part of it. Hundreds of people collect and collect and collect and give them and share the love that comes from each and every one of them, because that is radiating out of them. And you know, right now is the biggest moment in my life, and you're all part of it. You're all sharing it with me. So incredibly and massive ways, thank you for being a part of it. If you all give me your name and email address, I will send you a painting. For being part of it. It's not going to be very big because there's a lot of you, but I'm still going to do it. So there's that. I can give you the email address or something.
Is it an acronym or something?
It is not an acronym.
It is not an acronym.
No.
Okay, but you said your grandmother had given you.
She gave me the letters.
Oh, just the letters.
The letters, and I sounded out and said solve.
Well, that's a perfect segue, because if you Google intensively, because you have little social personal life, you will find that SOG actually is the only thing that I found is refers to a particular Mongolian pasture meadowland dwelling people. And I thought that was nice, because I was thinking, with the Lord is my shepherd, the maketh me lie down in green pastures, the peacefulness of it. And so, in the Mongolian way and the Tibetan way, this Shawn was kind enough to purchase via the web some wonderful Tibetan prayer wheels. Now, if you don't know Tibetan prayer wheels, in front of Buddhist shrines, often you see the prayer wheels that are filled with the sacred sounds of creation, of primordial sound, the Om, and the Mani Padme Hum. And the idea is basically, it literally translates as behold the jewel in the lotus, but they're supposed to be the sounds. The Dalai Lama said that those sounds actually are very purifying for everybody. And you get merit when you spin these things, because it's like cheating. Instead of having to say it, it says it many times because the scrolls are being spun here. So Sean really came up with a great idea for kids to think of positive thoughts that they want to amplify in their lives. Take old soda cans and put the best, most positive things that they would want to see happen in this world come true, and make their own kind of, prayer wheel. So it's a way for us to talk about the primordial sounds and to come up and to have an interactive. So on that, thank you, Sean.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. I have taken one of his wedding pictures, placed it in the same position he was standing. So the building is actually right before the building was started. And I put it up. When I have, song is also like moments for me. So when I have a light moment and I make a song for it, you can barely see it, it's right there. That's the song. This is a song image that's using the light. Apparently that's a big thing. Here is the last egg. Starts here, ends here. Here is just as human. So you can't, these are so small you can't see the details. You can see it's a casket right there. There's another image of it up here. Here's Mrs. Duffy in her casket. Here is Red and I. Here's a fantastic picture of Red that I love to show everybody. I just showed someone else, so hopefully it'll be up here. We had loads of fun all the time. There it is. That kind of thing.
Okay, this exhibition we kind of dedicated to a very humble volunteer who makes a kind of art that is just to give joy to people and then disappears. It's Felix Cortina, the bubble guy. And he will, whenever he hears we're having something, we don't even have to call him. He shows up and he starts making bubbles. Tomorrow night, he will be making bubbles, etc. But this is the late Hobart Brown who founded Kennedy Sculpture Racing, and this was a day where the bubble magic just happened. We thought it was a beautiful segue from Sean's work into here. And again, this is kind of an overview of why we did this exhibition.
Et le bonhomme, il est en contact avec lui, quoi, tu vois.
Alors